Hi, and welcome to Accelerating Your Wealth with your host, myself, Rebecca Robertson. I'm an independent financial advisor and wealth coach. I'm the director of Evolution Financial Planning, who is also our sponsor for today's show. Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just got to let you know, are you enjoying the shows? If you are and there's more you want to listen to, then check out our quiz. You'll find the link below. You can fill out these questions and it will basically tell you what area of your finances you should focus on. So it might be business, it might be you're getting divorced, it might be investing. There's about 9 categories. And what it will give you is a playlist to the relevant categories of all the shows we've done that apply to that area and that subject. So what it allows you to do is super fast learn about the subject that you need to know super quick without having to scroll through about over 130 episodes currently. So I hope you find that helpful, and do let us know of your feedback leave us a review via your preferred platform. Thanks. Now, you just said about barriers for change, and I think that's a really important piece. And I know that as women, we do have a lot of barriers, and I just think about, what's the saying? You are the sum of the people. You are the sum of the 5 most people you spend the most time with. Something along those lines. It's a bit of a mouthful. And then you think about those barriers. So for a lot of women, you mentioned your cat.
Yeah.
And so for me, when I first started working, I was going networking, and I found that really inspiring, meeting these new people. And then as I started to grow, I'll be honest, I didn't find that they were growing at the same pace as I was. And I then had to go and find other environments, and I then started to go networking further afield. And then I got to a point where actually I didn't have time to go networking anymore. I had like over 100 clients. I had lots to do, and I had some projects on the go. And I stopped going networking quite so much. But I think I'd managed to expand my network so much by then that if I needed someone to lean on or someone to fall back on, I'd already had the inspiration. But through that process, I also had, when I first started my business, and it can be a career, you might be employed, whatever it is you're doing, but for me, it was my business. And it was really hard. And I was doing shows, I was doing baby shows, I did a psychic fair, you name it. I did it, right? I was there as a financial advisor selling insurance at a psychic fair. Like, I tried it all. And I was working hard.
Yeah.
I was working really hard. And my family were like, oh, you're working so hard, Becky. Just go and work back in a bank. Go and work as a cashier back in a bank. You're a regional sales manager. You can go and be a cashier. And I said, no. And that was almost like a barrier, because there was like this form of disbelief in the way that they were talking. Not because they didn't think I could do it, but it was just so hard that, just go and do the easier thing. And I think that's a massive thing for a lot of women, that it's actually easier to go and get the part-time job. That sort of, they're not able to take that risk. They're not able to be able to take those kind of chances because they need to work more flexibly, or it is that they are self-employed because they need that flexibility, and therefore they actually haven't got the capacity to actually work the kind of hours that they need to, because by the time they've done the school run, got home, then they can't go to that networking event because they've got to be there at pickup, or they can't go to an event in London because they need to get home for the kids, or whatever it might be. These are all barriers, and I sometimes wonder, but it took me so much effort at times to overcome that. My husband used to say, we used to earn the same amount, and then I got made redundant when I was 14 weeks pregnant. The recession came in 2008. The whole industry changed. And then when I did go back into work, I started working a couple of years after that, running my own business after I working part-time for a charity and things like that. And he kept saying to me, you could just go and work part-time, but actually you don't need to work. Because by then he'd pushed himself up the career ladder because there was only one income coming in. I was at home with my daughter. So he was like, you don't need to work. But I was very driven about what I preach, which is being financially independent. And although I loved being at home with my daughter, it isn't for everybody, day in and day out. And I found myself mentally just not being enough. And I really felt like I had to fight for my right to do what I wanted. But a lot of women, I don't think, get that opportunity, or maybe that because of the environment that's around them, they haven't got that encouragement, because they might have parents that sort of are saying, well, just go and work back in a bank or get a part-time job at the school or whatever it might be. What do you think builds that level of tenacity, do you think? Is it just sheer like obstinate-mindedness or, you know, like so stubborn they're like, no, I'm not going to take no for an answer? Or
I mean, I think there's an element of that. I always think that when people say to me, what makes you so successful in business? And I'm like, I'm just really tenacious.
Yeah.
And it was my younger daughter the other day. Someone said, like, who'd win in a race between your mum and your dad? And she's like, you'd always think it was my dad because he's faster and he's fit. But the thing about my mum, she might not be as fast, but she never gives up. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then everyone says about her, she's really tenacious. Like, she plays football, she's really tenacious. She doesn't give up. And I'm like, yeah, I don't give, like, that's always been part of me. I don't give up. Like, I will keep going. But I also think this is interesting. So I had a slight role model. Like, when I was working in my school, I was an assistant head teacher at that point. There was a wife of one of my, well, he wasn't my team, but somebody else at the school. And she had set up her own business. And she was doing hypnobirthing at the time. So, but that for me was like, oh my gosh, that there is possibility. And then actually Instagram really helped me see other people. So I think if you don't know anyone in your circle, it's hard. You know, that's why things like networking, social media, if it's, you know, in a good way, can help you connect because it's an identity shift. Yeah. It's often easier and safer to stay where we are. Okay. Again, when I was saying about, you know, changing your friends, like we can tell ourselves all of these stories. If I was successful, maybe I'd work longer hours. I wouldn't see my children. I wouldn't be the mum that I want to be. If I was successful, maybe I'd lose my friends. If I was successful, maybe my relationship wouldn't work out. Because then we hear things about women earning more than men, and that means X and Y. And, you know, so we create these stories in our brain based on our current identity and context and those messages that we see being reinforced by society, by our family, by our friends. You know, our family are there to often, they just want us to be safe, right? That's it. They want us to be safe and happy, and running a business might be a bit risky. So we have to start to acknowledge, like, what else is going on? What are the stories here? What are the assumptions? How is that limiting what I do? Like, who do I really want to become? And then looking at, you know, who are my role models? It might be, I don't know, Michelle Obama. Like, it might be someone that we've read about in a book. We don't have to meet them for them to inspire us.
Love that. So we not only need to start to become self-conscious, but also start to think, where are those thoughts coming from and what intentions those thoughts are having around the identity of how I show up for myself. And obviously that affects the job that we do, how we show up at the school gate. You know, if you're hiding the fact that, you know, you've done well in business. I often think that the school mums used to be really normal with me, and then we became friends on Facebook, and they saw the things that I'd post on Facebook, and now they're all like, who's this woman on the playground?
But they probably some of them might be, you know, because they might be judging that from their place, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. If they're listening, I'm really sorry.
Yeah. If mine are listening as well, you know that I love you. But I mean, yeah, it is like, again, we spend so much time in our heads. We mind read, we think, we make assumptions, we tell stories. I always say, if the gaps aren't filled out, people will create their own story. So people will say, oh, well, it must mean X or it must mean Y. And we say that about ourselves. You know, even really simple things like, oh my gosh, when I was on the way here, I realized someone had sent me a message. I never replied to messages because I hardly check them on my phone. And I'd replied, and then they said, oh, can you speak to me on Monday? And I'd forgotten. And I was like, oh my gosh. But then I looked at their last message, and their last message was like, Ruth, like, it was so nice. It was like, oh, it'd be so nice to speak to you on Monday. But I understand we're all busy with busy lives, and they're very religious. They was like, you know, when it aligns, talking about God and everything. And I thought, this person's not going to care. This person's like really cool. So I'm making it about myself. Oh my gosh, I didn't reply. I'm a bad person. They're fine. I know they're fine. I just looked at that other message. I was like, they're cool. But we make these stories the whole time, and that those stories become a trap. Those thoughts become a trap, and our thoughts impact our emotions and our behavior. And so we need to change something. We need to change our thoughts. We need to recognize our emotions, and then we can change our behavior.
And then that reflects how much people are saving or they're spending, right? Because then they're not saving because they're not somebody that's used to having savings. I know that with my business bank account, it got over a certain amount that I'd never had before, and it made me feel really uncomfortable. I literally felt itchy that I should spend it. Like I needed to get below a certain balance, and I was like, what should I spend it on? Because I just not used to this kind of money. It's almost like I was like, I don't deserve this kind of money in my bank account. And equally, when I had a car accident when I was 19, and a lot of emotional spending, I got into a lot of debt. And there was real shame around having that debt. And I find that's still the case for many, many people. So all of those sort of reflections and thought processes, those emotions affect how we view ourselves. Even like the fact, investing for your future, paying into a pension, people won't do that because they're just worried about today. Tomorrow, if they're lucky, the next holiday. That's it. They can't really think or feel any further ahead than that. I think only when really there's something happened in a close family that they then start to realise, oh, maybe I need to think about that, or they've had to change a job, or their business is, winding up, and they've had like a milestone period where they need to, or a big birthday that, someone's passed away maybe, then they start to think about their finances differently. Otherwise, people just go on the same path for years and years and years and not changing any of those habits.
They've got right. So to change a habit, you need to be motivated. So everything so our brains are dopamine seekers. So we're always seeking pleasure, right? So that's why something bad happens. I actually had a car accident when I was 18. So, and started the guilt, started the emotional spending, started all of that, because actually what made you feel a bit better? Well, I'll maybe if I have this top from, CK, Calvin Klein, that was back in the day. Maybe if I have this top and I wear this top, I'll feel better about myself. Maybe if I get this, okay? And actually we do get some dopamine from doing that. So it reinforces that behavior.
That spending, yeah.
So, and then you get into the shame cycle. Oh my gosh, I've got these things, I've never worn them, blah, blah. So the way that our behavior is reinforced by our emotions and our neurotransmitters, which mean I'm getting some pleasure from this. And then we have the shame, yeah? And then to get out of shame, we want some dopamine. We want to feel good. And so you can see it becomes a cycle. And unless you're aware and you break that cycle, it's going to go on and on and on and on. So there's so much here that is just about understanding. Whenever I'm training someone as a coach or anything else, I'm always like, self-awareness is at the core, like recognizing what is helping me here and what isn't, like what behaviors, what beliefs, what thoughts, and what are things telling me? What are my emotions telling me? When I'm feeling guilty, what do I want to do with that? Where does that come from? Because we don't do that. We just go through the motions, like you said. People don't think about retirement because they want to feel like they're going to live forever. They want to be immortal, right? So I'm not going to think about that because, like that, it's not going to happen that far. And then, and then before you know it, I mean, I'm 48. I feel like time is just getting faster and faster. So I can see
what
that
is that about?
I know, it's like, you're like, what happened there?
Yeah.
But so then our brain struggles to perceive that far in advance anyway. And so we convince ourselves, I don't need to worry about it now. And then we wake up and we're 65 and we're like, oh my gosh.
How did that happen?
Yeah.
So coming back to like basic money mindsets and that internal identity, we've talked a lot around, how it affects our identity around the decisions that we're making. But if someone's sitting there listening to the show right now, what couple of steps could they start doing in terms of shifting some of the accountability around making decisions? Because it takes time, as you said, to change the habits and change that internal identity. But what small things could they start doing?
I think first of all, they need awareness, right? So they need to write down what they believe to be true about money and their relationship with money and numbers. So I would literally start writing a list. Okay, everything that's good, everything that's helpful, everything that's not helpful. So just get that out, get clarity on where you are, and then start to go, right, which of these are actually stopping me the most? Which of these do I need to change? And this always makes me laugh because I remember years and years ago, this is probably about 11 years ago, being in a program, and it's about money mindset. And they were saying, like, so you do that, and then you change. Then let's just say you've got a belief that you're not good with money. You change to that I am good with money. But you need to start with really, really tiny things. So what does somebody who's good with money do? Okay, so someone who's good with money checks their bank account daily. Someone who's good with money make sure that they understand, make sure that they understand their incomings and outgoings each month. Someone who's good with money does it. So you start to build, like, write down and think about what behaviors would I imagine of someone who's good with money? How do I see myself? Like, how do I feel about money? How do I respond if I see myself as good with money? How do I respond when I get a financial shock? We all do. Classic, parking tickets, always. But when I get a financial shock, how do I respond when I'm challenged? How do I respond? So we're thinking about as well, really fleshing out this identity. So, and then it's about starting to go, right, okay, how do I operate from here? So that might be those really small habits, and start to think about a celebration loop as well. So, like, again, building out. So the really simple one, I am someone who's good with money. So every day I'm going to be checking my bank account. So I know how much money I've got in my bank account. And then you can there's loads of things you can do. You can give yourself a little star chart, but each week you can reflect, you can think about different things. It's a bit like you can put the pennies in a jar, whatever it is. But you need to start building the behaviors that support that new identity. Now, sometimes it's hard to see the new identity, so you might want to start with the behaviors first, and then you can start to connect with it. Or some other people are good at visualizing, imagining, future-focused identity work. But it always makes me laugh because in this thing that I did 11 years ago, they were getting us to think about, money is abundant. Like, I've got loads of money, and they were saying start to act as if, And some people took that literally. So they were acting as if they were millionaires, but they weren't. So I think there's always a stipulation here. Like, yes, be grounded in the new identity, but remember where you are. So probably don't start making decisions as if you're a millionaire if you're not.
No,
not yet.
Not yet.
Otherwise, you're going to get yourself into a bit of a pickle.
Yeah, or like, hiring an aeroplane just to sit in it on the tarmac and taking pictures. What's that all about? We could go on a whole sort of whole rant about businesses and red flags around that. But before I do, let's just come back to this sort of identity piece. And what's your thoughts on affirmations, like words of affirmations, like the people that are suggested to look in the mirror and just say, I love money and money loves me and that kind of stuff. Do you think that's all positive?
I mean, it can be if you believe it and if it works for you, because again, you're wanting to rewire your brain. But for lots of people, they're saying it, they've got no belief. They don't actually they're just saying the words. There's no meaning, there's no feeling, there's no emotion, there's no personalization. So yes, words of affirmation can help. They can help us to rewire, thinking about a new thought, but it needs to mean something. It's not just off a list. Like, how do you want to see your relationship with money? Like, how do you, when you see yourself, who are you seeing back in the mirror? It's about how you are becoming that person you want to become. Yes, they can help. I don't personally use affirmations, but they can help because, again, what you're doing is you're shifting that diet that you're feeding your brain.
What if somebody gets to their next identity and actually the next level, they're not necessarily connected to the next level or what that might look like next? How do they start to be inspired for their next stage of life, for example? And I'm thinking more sort of on the financial side. It might be like a career, or they've reached that certain income that they always aspired to, or they've got that amount of money in the bank. How do they start to, later on in life, start to then think about that next level of identity?
I think there's always about this reimagining what success means to you. So often, I bet you get this as well, people have this really set financial goal. Like I remember, I showed at the beginning, 10K months, 100K business, £1,000,000, whatever, 100K months. Like, I'll be honest. Yeah, I've been there. I am there. Like, I've been there for quite a long time. Nothing changed. Like, we think that we're going to suddenly, we're going to feel differently, but we don't, because actually that isn't what success is. So often it's about going, okay, I'm at this level, but actually what do I really want? What are the things that make me feel happy, engaged, motivated, that give me purpose, that give me meaning? And yes, money can be part of that.
More from a security usually.
Ah,
Once you've ticked that box,
yeah,
and you've built a certain level, or you've achieved that certain savings goal, or you're putting a certain amount into your pension, or I don't like to encourage people to get bigger houses and bigger cars and bigger everything, but it does get, there are certain things that people need to aspire to. And then once they've done it, they often reflect and go, why did I want this? Actually, I'm glad I done it, but it's not for me. How do you start to re-identify yourself and start to figure out who you really are? Does that just, again, takes time?
I think it takes time. I think, again, because of society, right? We're thinking, right, we need a bigger house. I'm sitting here I'm right now in that. Do we actually need a house as big as what we've got? Like, I'm in that kind of, the reason that probably we will stay in that house is because I can't face moving. That is the reality. But actually, when I reflect back, I'm like, what drove us to get a house? That's do we need it? And I think that we aspire to do things. We think more. Maybe we don't just need one car. And we're looking for, we're looking for basically success from outside. We're looking for external validation. That's it. We're looking for external validation. But what we recognize is that actually what we feel internally is the driver. So external validation is great. It's a stroke. Oh, wow, look at me. I've got this car. I've got this thing. I've got this thing.
Dopamine hit.
Dopamine, yeah. But when does that ever stop? And there was some research, and it was interesting. So they repeated it after the pandemic, but there's some research. Was it done by Goldman? I can't remember who did it. In the US, and they looked at the relationship between money and happiness, and it rose. So as your money went up to about 80 grand, I think in the UK, your happiness went up. But when you got over, and it was about 80K, I think it's probably about 100K nowadays, it started to go down. And you look at, some people who are really financially successful, like celebrities and things, and you think, oh my, I wouldn't want your life. You don't seem happy. You don't seem content. So, I don't know why I always think of Kanye West there, but I always think he's got all the money in the world, but that man does not seem happy. I might be wrong. If any of Kanye's people are watching, I may be wrong. So I'm definitely not saying for certain.
I don't know why. I just can't see Kanye West.
Can't see them watching. Could you imagine if they were? That would be quite cool.
Reach out if you are.
Reach out if you are, definitely. But reimagine what success is. Beyond the material, yes. If we're thinking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, safety and security, that's what money means to most of us. It means that we can sleep well. It means we can feel that we can make decisions and make choices. But beyond that, thinking about actual relationships, thinking about meaning, thinking about, they call it self-actualization, don't they? How are we creating that in our lives? So I think the thing is that when we don't have money, we are driven by money. If we are living hand to mouth, if we are every month thinking, how are we going to pay for our rent? How are we going to pay for our groceries? Of course, our decisions will be made by money. That's because we have a motivation, a drive motivation to get those basic needs met. Yeah, it's survival. But beyond that, actually, when we have got our basic needs met, and our perception of what those are may change when we're like, oh, maybe I didn't need that house or those cars or whatever. then it's much more about meaning and purpose. But I feel like we have to go on that journey to realize that that wasn't what success was. You know, because our template is based on what we perceive in society, isn't it?
Yeah, it's where we start when we go
Yeah.
to school.
Yeah.
We sort of, you know, go and get the big job, work really hard,
Work really hard.
go to university or whatever,
Yeah.
all of that. And then you've done all of that and you're like, sorry, I'm meant to be happy now. Why am I not happy?
I've got my little tick box here. I've done all these things. But yeah, I don't feel motivated when I wake up. I don't feel engaged. I don't feel content. I don't feel happy.
Yeah. If you're somebody that is not sure what to do with their finances, maybe you're working and you're not sure what to do with the bonuses you've got at work, or maybe you started a business and you've got profits and you're not sure what you should be doing to enable you to A, pay yourself more, or B, potentially retire earlier. Maybe you're somebody that's thinking about, do I overpay on the mortgage? You've received some inheritance. You've got lots of questions around your finances and what to do next. Then check out Evolution Financial Planning, who are regulated independent financial advisors and financial planners that can help you make some of those big decisions in life. And that takes a lot of unpicking.
Yeah.
Rather than actually forcing forward. Sometimes it is like taking a step back. I just want to touch on neurodiversity because I think that really links into a lot of things. You can basically say everything you've said so far applies to every neurotypical person. But when you then build in other neurotypical, neurotypical conditions, it's almost like all of those dopamine hits, etc., especially for ADHD, become 10 times more.
Oh, yeah.
So how have you experienced that in the coaching and the work you've done so far?
So I have ADHD. So that dopamine with ADHD and spending, oh my gosh, you can see like you're so much more susceptible. So definitely, but I see that in my clients as well. And I think that has a bigger shame loop as well. So I think recognizing that some things are going to be more challenging. And I think there's a lot around money. And, you know, I was joking the other day on my Instagram stories that I actually took some stuff back, I know it sounds really silly, but that's like a massive thing for someone with ADHD. I actually took some stuff back to Next.
Didn't leave it in the cupboard or chuck it in the bin.
And they were like,
or charity shop.
£280. Like £280 I would have just let sit in my house. Never used. A pair of too small football boots. A skirt that made me look like, I don't know, Wordsworth Gummidge's wife, what's she called? Sally, Aunt Sally. And I can't remember the other thing. But these things we would never have used. Like they were the smallest kids' football boots, and no one else was ever going to use them. This skirt and something else. And I just thought, you know, it's the letting go of shame. It's letting people recognize that the way their brain is different, and helping people build habits that work for them.
So how have you become organised and work through some of your ADHD tendencies and achieve what you've achieved so far? Because actually I sometimes find that I'm dyslexic, and I am going to have I'm going to be assessed this year for ADHD just because I feel like I'm fed up of saying I think I am. And when I did say for 40 odd years going, I think I'm dyslexic, when I actually did get the diagnosis, I thought, oh, thank God I can stop saying I think I am now, and I can own it. Yeah. So that's why I want to do it and help me understand some tendencies. And I've actually been working with an ADHD coach, and I don't know if I know her through you, but and I worked with her for about 6 or 7 sessions. We was actually working on lots of other things, not just ADHD stuff. It was more around my health and my well-being. And I asked her at the end, do you think I am? And she just laughed and went, yes, I think so, Becky, yes. And she's worked with loads and loads and loads of, obviously, ADHD clients. So I found that writing lots of things down really helps, but obviously it ends up becoming like a long list somewhere in a book somewhere, and then you forget about them. So I've then found writing tasks in my Google Calendar, And then I go to a day, and if I've got lots in that day, then I'll reorganize that task for another day when there isn't as much on, and I just move the tasks along. And I sort of, it was hard at first, but then it became a habit. But it was something I really wanted to work on because I got really stressed out and quite anxious, which perimenopause played a big part in, which obviously the two together is a even bigger combination. Because then I'd get to the end of the week and then I felt like I was having to rush around and get so many things done, as well as all the weekend tasks. And then I'd start the following week with 10 times more to do. And then there was stuff laying around the house, nothing ever got done. But if I kept on top of it, actually, I felt a lot calmer and I felt like I was able to move other things forward because I had the brain capacity to do that. So that's one of the things that I do. Have you got any tips?
Oh, so I get support. So one of the things as well, so I have someone who helps me with that kind of thing. So I have a PA kind of operations person, and that makes a real difference. So they help keep me organized. So because, and it's quite funny because that all the time people are saying, can I meet with you? Can I do this? Can I do that? And I very much, and I didn't with you, but I do with most people, I very much just channel it all to her because otherwise I forget and I wake up in the middle of the night and think, oh my gosh, I didn't reply to that message. I didn't do that thing. It's like saying that person who messaged me, I didn't reply. It needs to be in one channel. So I think doing that, the calendar thing, oh my gosh, that's what I learned in recruitment. Every day before the next day, I would print off my Outlook and I would write in what I was doing all the time. Having that is an absolute game changer. So actually being really clear about what you're doing when, and then being able to move it. Creating little dopamine shifts. So if I know that I've got to do something and it's not something I'm really looking forward to, thinking about what I can do afterwards. So I kind of sequence things so I can get more dopamine. So I will allow myself. So I know, there was some research done at the University of Leeds that said when you looked at cute animal videos for half an hour, it lowers your level of cortisol. So rather than going, I'm never going to scroll on social media, I might be like, right, I'm going to have to do this really horrible thing. Usually it's something operational or something like that I don't enjoy. You have to do that. And then I'm going to let myself scroll and watch some little animals, AI animals dancing or some football memes. I'm going to do that. So I give myself little rewards. I find that really helps.
Yeah.
And try and delegate or decision making because we only have so much cognitive capacity to make decisions. I don't know why I was tapped here. They all happen here.
I thought you were tapping for a second.
Tapping is quite good, but I'm not. I don't do that really. But yeah, we only have so much cognitive capacity. So delegate, get other people, ask coaching questions. What do you think? What would you do? Because what you're really doing there is you're giving that autonomy away, and that is great.
No, I love that. That's great. And I do something similar. So I've got Katie, who's in my team. She's worked with me for about 8 years. And anything that's to do with the financial services business, I have people messaging me saying, oh, can I have an appointment? What about this? What about that? I'm like, book a call with Katie. Katie's my client manager. She's worked with me for eight years. She knows how the business works. And if it's not me that you need to speak to and it's another member of the team, she can pass you on. But if it is me, then she'll book you in my diary. She can explain how we work, how we charge, and how we can help you. And I say that every single time. And then she knows where everybody is. So then if down to me, they'd be stuck in my WhatsApp or on Facebook or on Messenger or on somewhere. And they'd be like, oh, yeah, you didn't get back to me. I didn't really think you wanted me, wanted to help me. I'm like, no, I just realised that you were that's the thing. I think having everything in one channel, I know there's the other things, just makes it so much easier because we have so much information. And if you've got ADHD, that's magnified. And it's not just, ADHD, there's definitely tendencies. But, if people are autistic or odd ADHD, they're going to need different things. And actually, we talk about that. We've got a neurodiversity coaching certification, but we talk about as well, understanding your client and starting to understand yourself. What is it that I need? Maybe I need written information. Maybe I need, maybe I need to actually talk things through with people. So you're starting to think about what does my brain need in order to be at its best. Yeah, we try and do that with our clients in the financial services business where we say to them, We're open. Do you have any sort of neurotypical or non-neurotypical tendencies? Is there anything you particularly need? Obviously, we're looking out for certain more serious vulnerabilities around domestic abuse, economic abuse, but we're also looking for those softer elements about how much hand-holding you might need. And I don't mean that in a patronising way. It's just that simply some people want bang, 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 factual information, just give it to me straight. And other people might need it a little bit more, taking it a little bit more easy and need a few more appointments. They might need things put in the post, or they'd rather email it and read it through, or they'd rather have a presentation with some visuals and that kind of stuff. So you do have to differentiate, I think, anyway, but then by asking that question, hopefully then you're allowing people to make better decisions, because obviously it's, there's a lot going on with this stuff, especially if it's new to people.
Yeah.
So you've given us some great lasting tips. We've talked about neurodiversity as well. Last subject I'd like to finish up on is perimenopause for women. It's almost like I became a gremlin, like I became this other version of myself. It was almost like, okay, having really bad periods, an underactive thyroid, having children, a C-section, a episiotomy, and if you know what that is, you know how bad it is. And then sort of navigating, starting a business. My daughter's 18 next month. My son is last couple of years of primary school. I thought a few years ago, well, it's going to be easy now. I've got over all the hard stuff. I've got the career sorted. I've got the business sorted. Everything's on track. I can start focusing on me. And then, wham, there comes perimenopause. And for me, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I went from being TEDx talks and awards and networking and speaking to hardly leaving the house. And I was in my dressing gown and I didn't look good. Like neurotypically, like psychologically, do you see that through with your clients? And what sort of tips would you give women, apart from the obvious of obviously getting potentially medical assistance? Is there anything else that you would maybe suggest?
Definitely medical assistance. I think it can be all of this as well. When we go through perimenopause too, like I'm well in the thick of it, we often have lots of other things going on. So our levels of stress. So if I think about, for me, when I was like completely floored by it, 2021, 2022, right, 2021, personally, there were some very close family members who were very unwell. We were just going into another lockdown. We were moving house. We were moving to a new area. We were moving my kids' school. Like there were loads of things going on. And so the stress and the perimenopause and the neurodiversity was a perfect storm. So many different things. So I think the change in hormones, and I'm not a hormone expert, but the change in hormones alongside stress and caring responsibilities and growing a business can just, everything can feel completely overwhelming. So yes, medical support always, but also some kind of coaching or therapeutic support to actually make sense of what is going on, because often we might think it's perimenopause, but maybe it's maybe it's life stage as well as age. There's so many different things, and I think we don't know about it. Like I didn't really know about it. I didn't realise I was in perimenopause until about 2 years afterwards. Because gremlin. I definitely I was so stressed. I was so anxious. I was struggling to leave the house. I was paranoid. And there were other things as well, but it just made it into such a perfect storm. And I didn't feel like anyone could understand me. So I think, if you're feeling any of this, get some help. And remember, it doesn't last forever.
No, but that brain fog, and you apply that to finances along with ADHD, it's almost like you might as well just write off the months and months and months. And it wasn't until I got the medical help and I started to understand it better, because I don't think even my mum really explained what the menopause was. I just thought it was hot flushes and that was it. No one really explained the extent of how it affected me. I literally didn't even recognise myself in my own body. Mentally, psychologically, I went from super confident to doubting every single move, every single word that came out of my brain, and forgetting. and people make a joke out of it.
Yeah, they do.
And people make a laugh out of it. And I've got to be honest, it weren't funny for me. It was really actually quite serious. And I obviously got help from the NHS, but then they wasn't able to then really give me the levels that I wanted because I still didn't feel right. They just kept saying, "Oh, you're within the range, you're fine." So then I did get private help, and I went to a private nurse. And one of our interviews is actually with Kathleen Gale, back 50 odd episodes ago. So she's amazing. You can listen to her. And it was through her help, privately paying, that I was able to then get the levels that I needed. And then I started to recognise myself again. I mean, I even spoke to a woman this week who's planning to leave her husband. And she's got a sort of time frame in her mind about it all. And the way she was acting was very anxious, but she wasn't in any sort of safeguarding issue.
Yeah.
She was safe. I think it was okay in that area. And I just said, "Have you thought about menopause?" She said, "Oh yeah, I have. I think, that's been going on a little while now." And I said, "You really need to think about you and yourself and your own mental health before you start thinking about other relationships and making decisions big decisions in other relationships. Go and get that help, and then you can start to make some financial decisions. And then once you've got to that stage, you can then start to think about the relationships and those around." So I think there's a lot to be said about perimenopause and money and making decisions.
Yeah, definitely. Because that place of anxiety, like that place in our nervous system. Yeah. I mean,
It's a lot.
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Who did you get help from?
So I couldn't take any of the medical stuff because of a family history thing. So I did everything else. So like exercise, like I didn't recognize myself either. It felt like, 2021, I started 2021 looking like I do now. And at the end of 2021, I looked like a completely different person. And I felt like a completely different person. And I was like, what has happened? So yeah, exercise. Actually, like I'd got into I'd been listening to so much advice that I had to then go to like a nutritionist and say, what do I eat? I was eating far too little. So we don't talk about that. I wasn't eating enough. So because I wasn't eating enough, that was making it worse.
And eating the wrong things as well.
Eating the wrong things, like listening to a podcast and going, "Oh right, I'll take that advice from somebody." That's one thing I say. Go to a specialist. So nutritionists really helped me look at my diet, sleep. They did tell me not to have coffee and alcohol, so I didn't do that. I still have coffee and alcohol, but not really so much because I can't drink alcohol anymore.
No, yeah, me neither.
Like I can't drink, I can drink a glass of wine, maybe two, that's it.
Yeah. The next day is just not worth it.
It's not worth it. But you feel completely different. I'm like, it's probably good. But yeah. So I got nutrition advice and kind of exercise advice, and that really worked for me. Looked at some natural things, tried to had some therapy as well, some kind of mental health support. So I did all of that stuff because I couldn't go on the HRT.
Yeah, great. Well, I'm glad that it's helped you and it works.
It has.
Yeah, because I think I don't know. I mean, I like exercise, but not to the degree. I think I'd have a different motivation to go and exercise if it was like, this is the only thing that works for me.
I mean, that's really, so one of the things, like I don't start work until 10 o'clock because I need to go for a walk every day. And that's for my ADHD and I think for my perimenopause. I forgot as well, yoga. So I got this amazing lady who I do yoga with. She does sound therapy, that kind of meditation, that kind of stuff. That really helped as well. But yeah, I literally was trying everything. I tried every supplement. I did.
Tried it all.
Tried it all. Yeah, tried it all.
Been there, done that. Yeah. I think it's great that you found a way that worked.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And it comes back to I found that I had to sort of go back to myself and look at my own, like my identity again, and say, well, actually, I at the time, for example, I used to do back-to-back appointments 5 days a week, back to back, no problem. Mentally, I can't do that now. I actually only have 3 days a week and I can only do about 4 appointments a day. That's it. Because then when I have to go and do the admin, cognitively, I can't do that in the evening. I can't do that at the weekend. So I have to have enough time in my diary. So I think it's recognising what you can and you can't do, but we're still pushing boundaries. Is that the okay? I think in business you do have to sort of push yourself in I don't like the word push is a bit of a negative connotation because then you're hustling or you're forcing or something. But I do believe that sometimes you do have to sort of say, it's okay, I'm going to go and do that extra appointment, or I'm going to go to that speaking event, but I'm going to give myself tomorrow afternoon off. It's like knowing when to sort of ebbs and flows.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, it has been amazing talking to you today. I've absolutely loved it. I think we could carry on talking for ages. We could, yeah. And I've loved it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
We've talked about belief systems, bad habits, where that comes from, things that we can do to change that, looking at our future identity and ways to start embedding better identities for ourselves. So much. How can people get in contact with you if they would love to hear more about you and what you do?
So I would say I'm the only Ruth Kudzi, but I did see on Facebook there's another lady called Ruth Kudzi.
I can't believe it.
I know, but Ruth Kudzi, Kudzi, so ruthkudzi.com. I'm Ruth Kudzi on all the socials, or Optimus Coach Academy.
So who's your ideal client? Who would be somebody that would normally come to you at Optimus?
Usually, so it's the same person, but they're in different stages. So they're a professional, generally 35 to 60. They have had a great career. They enjoy leading and managing people. They enjoy developing people. They want more meaning. So either they're wanting to start working as a coach, potentially as a semi-retirement plan, or potentially start their business on the side, or they're wanting to be a better leader. So some of them use the coaching skills in corporate. Some of them use coaching skills in corporate and leave. Some people start their own business. So lots of different kind of guises, but they tend to be like in education, social work, healthcare, professional services. We're getting quite a few policemen recently, which is interesting. Marketing, HR, those are the main ones. But, we get people. We've had actors, we've had gardeners. So we get a few people out of that, but that's what they tend to be. That it's the meaning thing. They've got to a certain point in their life and they're like, I want more meaning in what I do. And that's why.
Love that. Thank you very much. And all the contact details for Ruth will be in the show notes below. So do go and check her out. And thank you for joining us for today's show. Thank you for joining us today at Accelerating Your Wealth with your host, myself, Rebecca Robertson. I hope you enjoyed the show. Do subscribe and let us know in the comments any of your thoughts.